but very happy to be here again with my colleagues, the ambassadors of Colombia, Peru, the chefs d'affaires of Chile, and of course Mexico, gathered together around this fantastic idea. And this is somewhat refreshing because from the experience of our region, it is certainly a fresh breath of fresh air to actually we mean what we say, and then our actions follow what we say, and then we perform. This is not necessarily something that has been very much there in the region throughout history. But certainly one of my favorite authors, George Orwell, in this fantastic book, Animal Farm, can be in a way misquoted here to say that all free trade agreements are equal, but some free trade agreements are more equal than others. Particularly this one. Certainly Chile and Mexico are perhaps among those countries that have the most or the larger number of free trade agreements. But this one is really different in many senses. This is not a run-of-the-mill trade initiative. In fact, it represents a very ambitious and at the same time very pragmatic, and I would underline pragmatic, initiative among also underlining like-minded countries. And what you say, it is not political, but it's no accident as well that we think alike from democratic values and as well from the approach to trade and to an open economy framework in terms of macroeconomic and microeconomic policy. So this is a new pragmatic, results-oriented and market-friendly model that it's open now in the region. The Pacific Alliance members, as I said, mean what they say and then do what they say. In these three pillars of trade, mobility, and cooperation, the Alliance encompasses a broad array of topics beyond common trade and investment initiatives. The Alliance provides free movement of goods, services, capital, and people, as was mentioned by Ambassador Forsyth, and to make the most out of the synergies between the Pacific Latin American countries, and also to serve as a bridge to the Asia-Pacific. We have managed to achieve a very high level of ambition in a surprisingly short time span. Through a flexible engagement process, instead of waiting to achieve agreements in all three pillars before letting them enter into force, we have opted to follow an early harvest approach, whereby we implement agreements when they are achieved and keep momentum moving forward with new initiatives on a broad spectrum of topics. The Alliance is thus best understood as a dynamic process rather than a trade and investment agreement. The Alliance, of course, has elicited a great deal of interest, a reflection of the opportunities many countries see in this sort of process. And there are currently 30 observer countries. Also, as you pointed out, there are 10 European observer countries, and of course, the foundation that just issued this fantastic report on the Pumas also reflects the high degree of interest that the Alliance is generating in Europe. And there are several reasons for this. This is no accident, for sure. And perhaps foremost, as I mentioned at the outset, we deliver what we promise. For seasoned trade negotiators and observers, it has become the norm to see negotiations drag on and on with no end in sight. In contrast, the Alliance achieved a very ambitious trade agreement in both scope and coverage through a quick negotiation process. Secondly, that the four members are like-minded countries. This initiative has maintained support and momentum despite several changes of governments and provides privileged access to Latin America and the Asia-Pacific. The aim of the Alliance members is not merely to liberalize tariffs but to reduce transaction costs across the board. It's really to as President Peña says for Mexico, democratize productivity, which is to lower barriers of entrance and reduce transaction costs across the board in order to make trade and investment flows in the region much more attractive. The great care and attention that is being given to reducing or eliminating non-tariff barriers and to facilitating business transactions will open new opportunities for those companies willing to invest in this region. Of course, the market itself is large enough and attractive, 218 million people, but the point I wanted to underline is, we repeat this on and on, that the US exports more to Mexico than to Brazil, China, Russia, and India combined. But also the US exports more to the Pacific Alliance countries, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and Chile, than it does to the European Union. And this is maybe coming as a surprise for most of us. Also, 3 of the alliance members are participating in TPP, and certainly this is also a fantastic opportunity. We have to have Colombia join these negotiations. Of course, certainly I know that Colombia is very much committed into this process, and it is going to be very important. The flexible nature of the alliance means that for observer countries, for instance, there is no one-size-fits-all model for engagement. And there are many different interests that have been expressed by different observers. Certainly the US interest in regulatory cooperation, social and environmental responsibility, travel facilitation, and customs modernization. And then the European countries that are currently observers that have a very broad scope of topics to engage with the alliance countries. So just to end my comment, this is a process which is very flexible in nature, and the topics that are currently covered under the 3 pillars might evolve into more sophisticated approaches into really build up opportunities for the Pacific Alliance countries. And certainly I am very optimistic that this will not only not end here, but this is going to be a very promising start point for the region, the hemisphere, and certainly the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.